Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this very short but hopefully helpful webinar about empowered manifesting. So manifesting is a word that is thrown around a lot. I'm sure you hear it probably daily if you are especially in a more holistic wellness space. And I really had an adversity to this word because of the way that it was thrown around in certain circles. And it took me a while to kind of integrate this word in my life because I needed to understand what it really means. And I'm skeptical by nature, so I need to do like a million research, and like a little bit of research and then a million points of reference to like drop my head around stuff. And I'm like, okay, what is this manifesting stuff? And I read every single book that I could possibly find on it, but it was bothering me the way that it was kind of putting people in a place where their responsibility was so big, and if they didn't manifest, they were failing at something. And I feel like actually we need to understand what manifesting means, but also empowering people about this word, which is powerful, and it is something that everybody does. So what is manifesting? So I got this quote, and I think it's either Gabrielle Bernstein or Oprah that said, we attract what we are and we manifest what we believe. And I thought, what a nice mic drop here. Because it's true that we attract what we are because we are vibration, we are energy. And so sometimes we don't realize what kind of vibration we're in, but we attract the things that are with us in that vibration. I'm going to move myself here. And then we manifest what we believe, because that vibration that attracts our reality then will shape our mind, will shape our belief system, and therefore will also shape our reality. So manifesting is a physical expression of our flow and inner state. And so we have to really be careful about what we think, what we say, and we believe in. And the empowerment part comes from the fact that a lot of the times we don't actually know what we think perfectly, like to the point, or our words come out on autopilot, or what we believe in is not exactly clear. And so when we send this message out there, because every word and every thought has a vibration, just like the cells in our body, we are sending the vibration, so we are attracting the same vibration. Now, it's also possible to have a very high vibration and attract energy vampires, which can be under situations or just people. But generally speaking, when we are vibrating highly, we attract things that are highly like high vibration as well. So when we attract those, then we are going to manifest them physically into our reality. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you attract, it comes, and we manifest. So at the beginning, we're chatting offline about how it can take a bit of time and we can feel stuck. And there are some things in here that we can look at. But that's part of the process, actually, because the journey is very, very important in this. So once we understand that actually manifesting is an art, and manifesting is just a physical expression of what we already put out there in the ether energetically, then we can be much more attuned to and pay attention to the things that we have to do to make sure that we are actually attracting the right things, because we can totally attract the wrong things. So watching our thoughts, our words, and our belief system. So what is empowered manifesting then? Well, we just covered up what manifesting is. So empowered manifesting is the art of being aware of all the steps that lead to the manifestation at visceral and subconscious level, which means we have to do a lot of inner work to actually understand that we are powerful, and that our power lies into making sure that we know exactly why, how, when we do things. If we are just doing things on autopilot again, our results will be autopilot-like, so very random, because, well, you don't have control over it. You haven't really thought about it. You haven't really strategized. You haven't really embodied what you're thinking. So random results come. And then we're like, but why is this happening to me? I'm doing all the right things. Maybe on a surface level, we might feel like we are, but actually on a deeper level, our messaging and our vibrations are confusing to the rest of what vibrates at the same vibe. And so things are coming, like imagine a radio station that is not a clear FM station, right? So you start having all the statics, and then you're like, I can't listen to this. Like the music doesn't come through, the voice of the DJ doesn't come through, and it's the same with, let's call it universe, but the space that we're in, and our connection to God. And now I don't know if any of you is familiar with like Kabbalah, for example, but we are on this tree of life. So our life is about ascension. We are now in Malkut, in a very physical and dense reality, this dimension, but we come from source. So that connection to source has a lot of steps and has a lot of energies. And so sometimes that energy and that connection can get stuck, or can get hijacked, or can get lost in different frequencies. So we're not connecting to source. Therefore, our messages, our reality doesn't reflect what source can give us. So knowing this is empowering, because we can change that by becoming aware of how to handle it, how to work around it, right? So manifesting is a journey. And this is the other thing that I think really put me off for a very long time. When you hear about manifesting, especially at the beginning, it was more like you think about something, you visualize it, and then poof, it appears. Like it's your, you have this magic gift that you can allow things to just appear. And the truth is, nobody can do that in this dimension. We can when we elevate, when we escalate, like there's a lot of spiritual work to do. But we also can, in a way, do it without thinking, which is why results sometimes are random. And I'll get to that in a minute. But everyone thinks that of the final destination. So a lot of people will also use manifestation for very material things, right? So you'll hear people, I want the big house. I am picturing the big house. I'm picturing the new car. I want the new job. I want more money in the bank. I'm visualizing all these things to happen. And it's very, very dense things that they're thinking about, and that's all they focus on. But there are steps to get there, and this is really intertwined with some of the teaching that our parents, if they had any mindfulness, they would teach us. Like, you actually have to work to get certain things. And I'm not talking about a 9-to-5 job, but what I'm talking about is you have to align yourself with the opportunities that will allow you to learn certain skills, to take a journey in your path, and then with that journey create these things, right? So if you're sitting at the corner of your street and you're eating ice cream every day, asking for pennies, I am quite sure you're not going to have that car or that mansion you want. You're going to be poor, and you're going to have your life sitting there asking for money and eating whatever. So to have that, you have to think, well, what do I want? What is important to me? And how do I get there? So the steps are super important. We can't spiritually bypass the journey, which I spelled wrong, I'm sorry, the journey, because you can't just skip the steps and get to the final destination where you just have the things you want. I mean, that would be amazing if it happened for everybody, and it doesn't happen for anybody. And I know everyone is like, but that person used to manifest whatever they wanted. That person had a strategy and was already in place, and it's the same thing as overnight success. Nothing happens overnight. There is a process. This is just the laws of the universe, that nothing happens randomly and nothing happens just like this. Even God had a strategy, when he created everything. So nothing happens just by chance. Everything is a very mathematical and geometrical shape and form. You probably heard about sacred geometry, but everything kind of unfolds within, and it's infinite in its shape and form, and it allows different connections to happen. So there is always a point A to point B to point C and so on. So manifesting is the journey, and then you will see the results at the end. But you don't just see the results at the end, actually. Even through your journey, you will have small results, which is why it's very good to not get frustrated about this, the manifestation and what we're manifesting, or get attached to it, but actually be aware that as we progress, different things will manifest. And as we progress and learn from these things or appreciate them, are grateful for them, maybe some are useful, maybe some are just lessons, then we take them and we can get to the next step and we can get to the next step. So these steps in the journey is very important, are very important. And we have to understand that we're manifesting all of the things on the journey, right? All the steps. Then we have to enjoy the steps. Now, here, there are some things that we can think about. This is, imagine, let's just, for visualization, imagine that the end all of what we want is step number 10, right? And or number 9 or whatever, how many you have here? 8. So 9, right, is the end all of everything. Even then, every step will have several under steps. So those things that we're going to list here, we're going to read here, and then so you can move to the next thing, right? So, for example, the first thing to do, be clear about what you want. If we send conflicting messages out there, the result is conflicting. Don't I know it? I've done it for a very long time, where my visualizations, my thoughts, my wants were so not aligned with what I really felt within, with my vibration, that the results were always bloody random. Or I would get what I wanted, but it wasn't flowing. It would be really hard, and it would be like feeling like grind. All right. So being very, very clear is super important. And that clarity comes with tapping within, really deepening that feeling that we have with ourselves, and like really being aware that actually I have to make an effort to be present. And I really need to understand what it is that I want right now. And then intentions are very, very important. So once you have that clarity of what you want, the intention is, okay, again, let's keep it materialistic just because it's easier as an example. I want to get a new job. So I'm clear about the job that I want, right? So when you apply for a job or you create your description of the job that you want, you're very intentional about the keywords that you're using, about what you want from it. Say, I want balance. I want to have a 30 hours week. I want to make sure that I work this day, this day, this day. I don't want to work late at night. I don't want to have a work phone. Like whatever it is that you have to be really intentional about spelling out, you will do that because that allows you to communicate what you want, the clarity, to say the employee, right? Or a company that you're approaching, because you're bringing your skills to them. And so clarity is very important. Intention is very important. Then you have to take action. And sometimes there are some sacrifices that come with taking action. For example, you might have a job that you really love getting, and it takes you away from home, right? I know for one of you guys, that's sometimes the case. And so, but you want to make sure that you're doing what you can to just achieve what it is that it's important to you. So that sacrifice is for love of what you want to have in that step. And you know that getting that job abroad for a short period of time might lead you then to the next thing that can lead you to the real job that you want long term. So that is all, it's part of the step, it's part of the journey that we talked about earlier. Remove the resistance. Resistance is where we are thinking of the end result instead of thinking about what we're manifesting right now, that is the stepping stone to the end result. So, oh, this is not what I asked for. This is not perfect like I wanted. This is not exactly it. Or you're stuck in a job that you hate, or you are stuck in a relationship, or whatever it is. You have to just sit back and think about your resistance. Is this a lesson? Is this a problem? What's the lesson? If it's a problem, it's got a solution. Every problem has a solution. Even the toughest problem has a solution. So the resistance is that stubbornness and unwillingness to be flexible. And we talk about this a lot in yoga. When we have resistance, when we do asanas, we can get hurt because we are not allowing our body to open up. Now, of course, I'm not saying if you're not flexible to go and push yourself in positions that can break you. I'm just saying, relax your body, relax your mind, breathe, see what it takes you. And it's exactly the same thing with the things that are happening when you manifest. Breathe, relax, see what it takes you, understand the lesson, understand the stepping stone, and be ready to do the work. So again, there is a sacrifice that we make, and then there is the work that we have to do. And that's the steps, right? It's like very practical. What do I need to do? The work can also be internal work. So if there is resistance, the resistance could be spiritual. It could be something that is a limiting belief from when you were a child. And so you have to go into removing that resistance by doing deep dive work in your subconscious, or even healing ancestral connections. So one thing that I did for myself is I was having a very tough relationship with my mom, and we needed a little bit of separation, because when we started really clashing, but in a way that was unhealthy and toxic. So I decided that we needed to take a break, and I had to do some healing work. One of the things that I found, that I had so many things, so many traumas that were not dealt with from childhood, that I had to go back, and I really went deep, so much that I went into ancestral medicine, and I started reconnecting the dots that were missing with my ancestors, and mostly the female lineage in my ancestry. And I started seeing all these things happening. And since then, like it's like a weight lifted. And the resistance that was even part of my life, like things were not happening for me. I could have not even opened my practice in Braga had I not done that work, because there was resistance that was just stopping, because I hadn't done the work that needed to be done to clear that pathway. And then with that healing, with that work, you start seeing the resistance being removed, and you start seeing the steps that you take and the journey. And then you have to cultivate grit. You have to be really patient, and you have to really have strength. And the reason is, sometimes through that journey, we get, or we manifest things that are not ideal. That doesn't mean that they're not helpful though. So we have to be really resilient, and we have to have grit. And when those things happen, again, go back to, what's the lesson? How can I be grateful? And how can I use this to get to the next level? Because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This is a saying that doesn't come from just nowhere. It's really a practical saying that means a lot. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And we all are very resilient if you think about it. Sometimes we just don't give ourselves credit for it. Patience is a very good virtue to have, because things don't happen overnight. They happen over time. So even then, right, use patience to identify when you feel stuck. If you are really stuck in one place, like you're static, or you're just going through steps that are not ideal, they're not where you want to be just yet, but you can use these steps to get where you want to go. So it's very important. And the last one is detaching from the outcome. This is not just for the end goal, because the end goal might be looking very different to what we're thinking right now, in the sense that it might come with so many ripple effects of positivity, so many things that we didn't even imagine, and some things might be really different to what we imagine. But if we are attached to something that is like in our mind that we want exactly, we might get disappointed. But if we're not attached to the outcome, how much more can we enjoy what's happening? This is, I think, a little bit more, I guess, relevant for the steps, especially because the steps are definitely not the full picture. And so if we are not attached to the little nuggets that come to us, we can truly enjoy those steps and not be attached to that outcome, but then take it to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And remember, as you do the work and you get to that manifestation of what you want, we're still ascending this connection to source, right? I mean, ideally, where we're not just pointing at the material, we are actually really working upwards through the different levels of the tree of life, so that we can go back to source, because ultimately that's where we come from. So those are very interesting steps to consider when we are manifesting. So how do I become a manifester? Well, this is the mic drop of all. You already are a manifester. You already are a manifester. This is why the words, the thoughts, and everything is important. Because if you're thinking the wrong thing, if you're saying the wrong thing, if you are connecting to the funky vibrations out there, the outcome will be funky, will be wrong, will be frustrating, will be negative, will drive you crazy. And then you're like, I'm not manifesting. Actually, you are manifesting. You're just manifesting the wrong thing because you haven't been intentional, you haven't been purposeful, you haven't been mindful about what you want to manifest, which is the steps before and going deep and doing the healing. So it's really, really important to understand that everybody is a manifester. And in fact, when you learn to manifest, you're not learning a new skill per se, you're learning how to control that gift, which you already have. And this is where people get lost completely. And I guess in a way is how a lot of authors sell a lot of books, because they are teaching what manifesting is and telling people you can become one, but you already are one. You already are a manifester. And this is why this is so powerful, because if you're manifesting the wrong things, oof, and we all done it. We have all done it. I'm sure that you can all go into your past and actually think, yeah, definitely, I called that and it happened and it was really shit and I hated the experience, but I actually called it. If you're really honest with yourself, because I know for sure that every single experience in my life, I manifested, and the positive and the negative. And when it's the negative, I had to take responsibility for it. And now I can use that negative to take me to the next level. At the time, I was too immature to do it. I was in victim mode and so blaming and like, how do I manifest? Well, I was actually already manifesting. So we are all manifestors. And this is why intention and purpose and words are so important, and vibration, of course, even more so. So the feminine manifestation is really important. Something, again, that is not talked about. And I'm not talking women and men, although there is a rise in female consciousness that I'm really, really enjoying, because females have been so restricted, so put under the thumb by a very masculine and toxic masculine, not a positive masculine system that we live in. And so it has generated a lot of women that don't know even how to tap into that real power. And, you know, even if you think the church has made Holy Spirit a masculine, right? But a Holy Spirit actually is a feminine, it's a she, because you have to have duality with everything. So God is the masculine energy, spirit is the female energy, so that you can actually create. Otherwise you can't create, because you can't create just with masculine, you can't create just with feminine energy. You have to have both in balance, which is why when women and men also, we all have masculine and feminine energy. And it's really important to understand that. And it's been really not discussed in a way that is constructive. So for people that are, you know, and I put actually specifically God and Holy Spirit here, because I wanted people that even if they go to church and they listen to their pastor or whatever, understand that this is not contradictory, this is true, and that you can take it back to source, right? So if source created everything through the Holy Spirit, so that we can have that duality of masculine and feminine. But the feminine, the mother energy, like Panchamama, earth, is what creates life, what creates that tangible. So God has the spirit, the visualization, the attraction, because he creates everything and he vibrates at the highest powerful and energy. And then through the feminine, there is that actual physicality, that manifestation of thought to what you see around, like the trees, the animals, humans, and so on. So it's a beautiful synergy that we forget. And we have that within us, which is why, again, religion sadly really restrict people from understanding this. But when you look at the tree of life, the point number one is not here on earth, is not Malkut, is Kether, is the crown, because we come from source. So we can visualize, we can attract, and then because we have the feminine energy within us, we can manifest. And so if you are in balance with that energy, which is really important, that vibration, and you're really vibrating in a high energy, high level, then what you manifest will reflect that. Because basically manifestation is what you already created in the spirit world, and you're just transforming it in something more tangible in this dimension. That's what it is, really, at the end of the day, right? So it's a beautiful synergy and a lot of importance that go into the feminine. And this is why I really work more with women, and I want to really empower women to feel connected to that inner energy, because it's coming to life. I I'm really surprised every single day by how many women say, I'm getting all these downloads, I'm getting all these callings that I need to do something else with my life, that I have to get the next steps, that I have to do more, that I can be more, that I have this energy. It wasn't that way before. It's amazing. And it's women that are coming more with that. And a lot of men are waking up to toxic masculinity and wanting to become positive masculine. And that's beautiful as well, because it means they're balancing out the negative of just an aggressive masculinity, which is societal, with the feminine, so they can be more balanced. All right, so they can still be strong, because even us women have that, so we can still be strong, we can be grounded, we can take action, but we can nurture instead of destroying, which is what so much of this world does. Point in fact, look at the news, it's always destruction since forever. So this is very important to actually understand what energy we're attracting. So what now? Well, if you are, now that you know that you're a manifester, okay, now you know that you actually are that powerful, you have to harness your power, okay? You're not learning a new skill, you have to harness that power. Learn the tangible skills, which means the steps, so that that skill that you already have can be nurtured and can be, can progress positively. So every step has that outcome. How do I work with that outcome? And then see what happens, and believe in yourself, like build that confidence. And this is a new muscle as well. So building that new muscle of visualization, being clear, seeing it already, and then knowing that you have to do the work, appreciating yourself. That self-love is part of manifestation so much, because if you don't have confidence in yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, what do you believe in? You can't believe in an exterior factor to bring you happiness if you don't have happiness and belief within you. So work on that, because you're worth it, because you have the skills already. So you just have to kind of fine tune that beautiful energy, and then make changes every day so that you can accomplish that. Now, remember, we talked about the car, we talked about the house, but I mean, this can be anything. It can be your health, right? There are people that have cancer and they truly decide, I am going to heal with food and lifestyle, and I see myself being healthy, and they do it. And then there are people that go and have chemo and other drugs, and they trust the doctor. They don't have self-confidence. They think everything is outside their power. And although they use the best biotechnology medicine, they don't get better. So our power of the mind to manifest is so big. And I think it's really important to understand, how powerful it is to take responsibility for it. I think ultimately it comes down to responsibility, which is a beautiful thing, I think, because it allows us to grow and mature as human beings. So I absolutely love that responsibility and action and accountability. So if you wanna, you can totally, and I would send a workbook after this so that you can actually do your own exercises and go on with it. But if you needed help, you can work with me. All November, I have 25% off with the code gratitude. But I want to do this work, and especially with women. And of course, I know there are men in the audience, which is great, because again, we're balancing energy, but especially with women because of the rise of that power in women. But I want to allow people to have a co-pilot, so that if you want to make changes, I'm here for you, because I know where I was. And if you listen to my podcast, The Green Life, you know from my solo episodes what I have been through and the work that I've done in the past 2 or 3 years, and how I'm manifesting the life that I actually really wanted. It comes with sacrifices, it comes with a little bit of obstacles, of course, because if you're the only one changing when everybody is not, people are resistant, talking about resistance. But I have managed to truly transform my life and be so grateful that I managed to do that by taking action. So if I can teach skills to others, which is really what I love doing, then it's a bonus for me. So I leave this here just for you to know. But it's you are a manifester, you're powerful, and you need to make sure that you're working on whatever you're working on, that you are manifesting what you need to work on, because you have gifts that nobody else does. Even if you're doing the same thing or other people, the way you do it, the way you are, the way you express yourself, the words and the wisdom that comes to you does not go to anybody else. You are unique, and that gift needs to be brought on to other people, because that's ultimately why your energy will align with other people's energy at that frequency, and then it won't align with others, and the other people have another option. This is why not one person is going to cover the whole globe and everybody in it with their power, with their gifts, but everybody has a role here. We all have a job, and even if they're the same jobs, we attract different people. So it's brilliant, because then we can, really improve what the world looks like just by sharing our gifts. So I'm going to stop sharing this, but I would love some questions if you have any, because then it can become a little more engaging. And of course, if you're not on the live and you want to send questions after, you can as well.
Thank you, Chantal. That was great. I'm curious about the work that you said that you were doing in terms of like healing those ancestral issues, or what kind of work that was, because I do find that oftentimes that resistance is very familiar. Multiple life stages, trying to achieve or accomplish multiple things. The voice and the habits of the resistance are the same. So what can you go into that work that you did?
So the work is basically a lot of deep diving, so through meditation, but also actually one of the things that I did is visualizing everything and putting that on paper. So I did stickman, so I would draw my grandmother, my mother, and I realized through just drawing that in my lineage, my grandmother obviously had a very hard life. She lost her mom when she was very young, so she didn't have support. She didn't have the feminine support and the masculine support. My great granddad was very hard, very toxic, abusive, borderline. And then my grandmother married a man that was very, my grandfather wasn't abusive to her, but was very overpowering. So there was definitely that frustration that I think I genetically just get when I'm in situations like that. And I probably recognize a lot. That's what you recognize as resistance and things coming from your mom, dad, and then especially from the mom, because the female is the one that passes on most of the things, including our mitochondria. We get it from mom, not from dad. So imagine that. So that lineage. And then I saw that my mom was not placed in the right line. So if my grandmother was here, my mom was actually on the side, and I had a direct line to my mom being my mom, my grandmother being my mom, pardon me, instead of my mother. My mother was on the side. So our roles reversed at some point, where I became my mom's mom, because there was a lot of confusion there. So just by meditating on it, just by really focusing, like it's going to the Akashic records and really putting your library in order. So saying, okay, I know this happened, but I am actually really consciously visualizing that my grandmother has been a mom to my mother, and my mother has been a mom to me. Energetically, that is that's correct, the correct alignment. I cannot explain how exactly the science of it, because it's quantum physics, really. But I felt a shift that was humongous. And of course, some fears and stuff always come up, and I can recognize where they come from. But when they do, because I know where they come from, and I've done that visual work, I've written it down, I've placed these figurines in the right setting, I now don't get stuck by that fear or that frustration or that resistance. I work through it, and I'm like, next step, right? I mean, I don't have children to pass on that to, but I have a life to pass on that through, like all the things that I do every day. So that really allowed me to do it. So I would really suggest sitting down and picturing your family line, especially the women in it, and see if there's a breakage in that connection, and then create it. And every day meditate on it, at least for a month, meditate on it, and ask and just really send the love, like, okay, this wasn't picture perfect, it didn't happen that way, but energetically I'm realigning. Energetically I'm sending that around. We are in different dimensions, so you're actually adjusting something at some place, right?
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Welcome. Any question, Ismael?
No, I don't have questions actually, but this workshop was a bit unexpected. Well, the webinar
I know.
or
I
the
know.
format. No, but it's well, the last weeks have been really tough emotionally because of the submitting the PhD thesis and so on. So your words were like, wow, this is like Mozart music to me at some point. You know, this what are we talking about? This is what I was thinking today. Because when you're in a harsh moment, it can be either personal life, love, work, whatever, or a balance of everything actually. So yeah, I think you well, not you, every one of us should really work on this from the office point of view, from the home point of view, friends. Yeah.
Totally.
So
So important, especially who you surround yourself with, because again, I mentioned energy vampires
yeah,
can come through. And if they start sipping your energy and taking away from your purpose, what you start manifesting is going to be very low vibration, because they take the high vibration from you, and you're left with a half cup, empty cup. And then the result of that will be a very negative outcome. And then you're like, how did I get here? And so it's really, really important to make sure. You know, I had an episode where someone told me that they had a dream about me, because I've been obviously like driving more, I've been out of the house more, I've been more, not stressed, actually don't feel stressed at all, but like more active and more out of just my static life. And they were like, oh, I dreamt about you, and you know, you fell into ice, you got out of it, but I think you need to take care of yourself, which I of course actually do take care of myself, because that's one of the main fundamental pillars, looking after myself so that I don't burn out, so that I have my cup full of the time, so that I can actually help others. You can't help others if you're not looking after yourself, right? So, and I was like, this feels like they're projecting. But because they said that to me, I felt that the fear that what they were saying was truth. And I'm like, am I really missing the point here? And then I realized, no, this is not me. This is them projecting. But doing that, they were sipping that energy out of me, because I was getting fearful, right? And if you think about the word fear, interfere with our vibe, it goes in between our high vibration. So it brings it down, interferes with it. So I was like, okay, this is not mine. I need to let it go. And then after I did that, consciously really let it go, I felt so much better. I'm like, yeah, this is not my reality. This is just a projection of someone else. Because they probably would struggle because they haven't done the work that they need to do to be in that place where they can actually operate at a high vibration or high intensity or high energy. So they're like, how do you do it? You know, you're going to burn out. You know what I mean? So very important to know who you are around and understand where they're coming from, so that they don't project onto you something that is going to take your energy away.
So when
but
you
if
sorry, go ahead. You go
oh
first.
no, go ahead, Christina.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, then just to add on what I said, I think when we speak about work environments, many people, meetings, and now we have this double life, which is the office and online, so it's even more difficult, more demanding, I would say. And it's every time more common to listen to people speaking about workshops for the for the workers of the company. Like, we need to do these dynamics for everything to get along with, and that's amazing. But maybe we should focus on ourselves first, to be in a healthy way, conscious about our life first, and then we can go outside to the wildlife, to the forest.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had a question about was that, there's something that's called like a fair weather skier, which is like when you're thinking of things and you think that you're in the flow, or maybe just things are working out the way that you want them to work out, then it's easy to just be like, oh, look, my yoga is working, my meditation is working. But when things grind to a halt, or you have an anxiety, whether it's about an illness or a job, that anxiety is real, that fear, like, what am I going to do? What if I go for the test and it's a bad result? Like, so those feelings are just as real. And how do you cope with those? So for instance, if I'm looking for a new job and I need to earn money to pay my rent, and I'm not finding a job, but I've committed to finding the job that I love, and I've made the sacrifices in this, and it's still not coming. And the landlord's not, like, are the moments where you're cowering in fear or crying or under your duvet, like, those are real as well. not everyone can sail past it and just like, oh, I'm above this. Because
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like the
Yes. So I talked about the steps, right? In getting in manifesting. This is part of the steps. So, you know, this is why my frustration with how people talk about manifesting is real, because they're like, just visualize and it will happen. And it's like, what about everything in between? Because yeah, the feelings you mentioned are totally real, and you have to feel them and you have to navigate them, because you can't just pretend that they're not there or there is a weakness. Actually, those feelings are not weaknesses, they are strength, because they are teaching you a lesson. So you know that right now you are feeling overwhelmed, or you are really going through a shitty time, and it seems like there is no out of this. And yet, if you really go deep within, you're like, okay, I've felt this way before in other places, in other circumstances, and I came out of it. So you might not flow, you know, fair weather skiing all the time, but you will get the steps to get out of that funk, and then you start moving forward again. And so, okay, so the challenge is there is I have a ghost here. The challenge is there is a step that you have to take. There is an action that you have to take that is different maybe to what your instinct tell you to do, which is going under the duvet and putting your cover on your head. But you take that step and the result will be a little bit different. Maybe not massively straight away, but eventually will be. And so, okay, is that job not coming? Okay, do I have a job right now? I hate it, but I do have it. Yeah, okay, I'm staying here until I work my next step to get in the job that I actually want. Or, okay, so we're due the rent. What sacrifices do we have to make so that we can pay it? All right, fine. I'm not gonna go for dinner this week to, you know, my favorite restaurant, and I will do it. So there are sacrifices, there are steps, like all these steps that we talked about in the presentation. They're not linear, and they're not in order. They just, you know, they come and they go, and they intertwine, and you every day you take the step so that you can get out of that funk. Because this is the difference between somebody that comes out of it with strength and a lesson learned versus the victim that will always stay in victimhood, sit there and blame the world for all their problems and never take responsibility. Because we all have problems, or everyone will face an adversity. Are you going to face it? Are you going to change? Or are you going to just stay stuck and not deal with it? And then it's always everybody's fault, right? Which is one of the things I struggled with my mom. She was in that victim mode and never taking responsibility. And it was very frustrating for me, because it's like, you cannot keep on blaming everyone else. And it was affecting me, because I started actually saying the same things. You know, again, ancestrally, genetically, I think we're predisposed to a certain way. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is not healthy. So how do we change that? So, you know, we have to be very, very aware. I hope that helps.
Hugely. Thank you so much. This has been really, I mean, it's been succinct, but it's just, you know, what I needed to hear. So
wonderful. I'm happy to hear.
Thank
you guys.
Are you going to share a link of the?
I will. I'll put it on YouTube, so it will be available.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chantal. Lovely to see you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Nice
to meet you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Chantal. Ciao, ciao.